slices through. He's got Gago.
Oh, God. Oh, that was just too good. What's happening, guys? It is Burgz back at it again for another week of tips and predictions here on The Casual Athlete. And we have brought in another guest for the finals, week 2 this week. And we have Jye from our friend at the Blindside. Mate, how you going?
Hey, cruising. Fantasy season's over. I can actually just sit down and watch the footy now. I don't have to assess gameplay or anything like that. Just get right into it. Yeah, loving it.
Yep. Plenty of shit talk, plenty of bants. Also a Sharks fan against a Cowboys fan, and that is very important when it comes to this week. But we will get to that in just a few minutes' time. Guys, if you haven't already, please make sure that you like and subscribe to the channel. We bring out so much content each and every week, whether it be fantasy tipping or general NRL content. So make sure that you hit that subscribe button and hit the notification bell so that you don't miss out on any of our latest content. Also, make sure that you download the TBC Live app. We are running a finals tipping competition, guys, where you can win a free jersey. So make sure that you download TBC Live. The link is in the description. And as we always do, Blindside, we go through our tips from last week. And we had a pretty good week last week. I got all 4 games correct, which is, I guess, a first where I tipped the round, but at least it was only half a round. And we started on Friday night with Penrith taking on the Roosters out at Penrith. And I got to say, I was a little bit disappointed in the effort from the Roosters. Did you just think it was a slow start for them, or were Penrith just more clinical on the night?
Yeah, definitely a slow start. Panthers are a different side with Cleary. Cleary is amazing. I don't think there's what more words can you say for Nathan Cleary. I do think Roosters started slow. I think they did start to gain momentum in the second half, and that forward pass call, that iffy call on them with the forward pass, I think halted a lot of that momentum. But in saying that, it only would have brought them within 8 points, and you've still got to get a job done against the Premiership, well, 3-time Premiership
Yeah, I still
winners.
think Yeah, I still think that they just leak points like nobody's business. The Roosters, they've been one of the big flat track bullies, and I've been hammering this point home for the last few weeks, even leading into the end of the season. I started looking at their schedule a little bit more clearly, and they'd only won 3 games against top 8 teams going into the finals. And to me, that was just not setting them up for any success whatsoever. Injuries or no injuries. Yes, they didn't have Sam Walker. Yes, they didn't have the Cheese. Yes, they didn't have Victor Radley. But to me, I feel like the Panthers in the finals is a different beast. They almost have this flick the switch mentality, and it's almost impossible to stop at times.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. They just know when to step it up, and it's that next man up mentality. Doesn't really matter who's out. Even it looked like they were going to struggle heading into finals. But then
Mm.
they did struggle. I'd say against weaker sides, they got the wins, but you'd expect them to be way more clinical. Cleary steps back in, and it's like the whole formation has come back together for them. And like you said with the Roosters, I think you can blame the injuries if you want to blame the injuries, but they haven't had injuries throughout the year. They lost to Cronulla at Magic Round with a full side. So
Mm.
you know you're definitely right. They just have that ability to leak points this year, which is not Roosters like.
Yeah, certainly not. I thought this game was going to be a lot closer, hence the 1-12 margin on that game that I went with. But yeah, Penrith, they get another week off and are into another prelim final for the 5th season in a row. They are some sort of club. For the Roosters, it's back to the drawing board to see what they can do against Manly this week, but we'll get to that game in just a moment. We'll move on to the next game of the weekend, and it was the Storm taking on your Sharkies down in Melbourne. And for me, I was really disappointed in what I saw from the Sharks on the weekend, mate. I thought this game was going to be a lot closer. A few people had it as a bit of an upset that could happen. And the Sharks also grabbed a win earlier this year in Melbourne. What do you think went wrong for the Sharks in this one? They kept it pretty close at halftime, and in that second half, it just fell away.
Yeah, I think that sums it up. They didn't play the 80. It's been typical for us. I don't know why we can't put it all together. We couldn't start well all year. And towards the last
Mm.
5 rounds, we've been able to start very strong. But we die towards the end of games, like last 20 minutes of games. So there's definitely some stuff there we need to fix up. Look, could be a lot to do with the halves pairing. Nico being out of form. I would love to see him go back to form, what they do there moving forward for the rest of the finals. I think something needs to change. But look,
Mm.
it's a big problem to fix in one game.
Yeah, I mean, it's now 8 finals losses in a row. Haven't won one since 2018. So that's, I guess, as a supporter, got to be a bit frustrating when you see your team basically make the finals every year, but it's almost like you're expecting them not to win now. And I can't really imagine that as a supporter. I can't really imagine what you must be going through. It must be extremely frustrating.
Oh yeah, I'd say for a majority of fans it is. I just love the
Mm.
Sharks, so win or lose, I'm always on them. Ride the highs and the lows, but look, I guess the frustrating thing is that look at our lineup. We've got everything it takes to be a premiership contender, but we just keep
Hmm.
missing that gel. So look, I think the Storm is a massive. They're my pick for the premiership this year. So I thought it
Yeah,
was
well,
always going to be a tough ask to beat them. They're like the Panthers in different clothes. They step up at finals time. You need to pick up your game. It was always a
mm,
tough ask. Jerome Hughes likely Dally M this year. I think.
yeah,
Look, it was tough. I think ideally we would have loved to win, but I
yep.
guess now I think Fitzy played the long game and he just wanted the fans to watch more Sharks footy, so he's lost it on purpose, and we're coming back.
Storm, yeah, I agree with you in saying that they just have a switch and they have a lot of finals experience. Let's not get anything wrong. And Munster really stepped up as well in this game. And he has, I guess, struggled to come back to form this year as well. So that was, I guess, good to see. Not good to see if you don't want to see the Storm win the comp this year, but I'm pretty scared of Munster in big games as well. But yeah, the Storm progress on through to the preliminary final, which means the Sharks will be taking on the Cowboys, who also got a win on the weekend. I had this game being a big blowout for the Cowboys, 13 plus. I mean, I wasn't giving the Knights a hope in hell, and people on this show, Jye, I might fill you in a little bit. Feel like that I hate the Knights, that I'm not a Knights fan. I think maybe as per the intro, that would tell you that I'm probably not. But I just really didn't see the Knights as this all imposing finals team. To me, they were a one man team this year. And basically, if you stopped Ponga, you stopped the Knights. Well, the Cowboys didn't really stop him. He stopped himself on the weekend with that horrible pass to Dane Gagai. And I feel sorry for Gagai. People are saying that Gagai dropped it. It probably should have been taken considering the moment in the game that it was. But did you basically see it as that was the moment that the Knights season fell off, or was it always going to be the Cowboys' night?
I think it was always going to be the Cowboys' night. I think
Mhm.
that O'Brien has changed the halves too much this year. You can't
Yep.
have it's like junior footy established. You can't have a successful team if you don't have consistency in your halves or in your spine. Ponga's out most of the year. You had what Brayley's in and out injured. Now you've got Crossland, Cogger,
Mm.
Gamble, Hastings just always shifting in the halves. So, that inconsistency in your spine is going to make it very difficult to maintain winning form. But look, in saying that, I was very surprised to see the Knights make the finals.
Mm.
I didn't think that they were going to get there. But Cowboys, they had a drop off in form, in my opinion, as well. I was concerned that maybe the Knights had the best opposition possible coming into that
Yep.
game. But again, Cowboys, they've got premiership experience. They've got that good mix of like young, upcoming, high level talent with very experienced players. So I think when it comes to these moments in do or die or close games, I would tip them to come out on top. So I didn't tip them. I tipped the Knights in an upset, but Cowboys got up.
No, I feel like for the Cowboys, it's a very telling season from a captaincy point of view. You know, we did make the big shift this year to guys like Dearden and Cotter who lead by example. You can tell that each and every week, emphasised by Dearden's effort to stop Frizzell from getting on that ball before it went over the dead ball line. He got there, he tapped it back, and then Cotter's try. I mean, he just put himself in the area. Yeah, and maybe a bit controversial. We didn't fully see whether it came off his knee, his hand, but I was happy to go with try on that one, maybe because I'm a Cowboys fan. But he got to the ball first. He scrambled. He didn't give up on the play. And I think that's one thing that this Cowboys team has embodied this year is the actions of their captains really translate towards the rest of the team in terms of when they win games. When they're not winning games, that effort is not present, I guess, aside from Dearden's tackle on Cobbo earlier this year. I think he showed us that he still will give a shit if the team is down by 30. He doesn't
Yep.
care. He'll play right till the last whistle. And that's something that I love about Tom Dearden. But the Cowboys progress on to this week and come down to Sydney to take on the Sharks. But we had one more game, and I thought it was actually the closest and possibly the best game over the weekend. The Sea Eagles edged one out against the Dogs, who had a great home record coming into this game. And no doubt the crowd was definitely against the Sea Eagles in this one. I thought it was there for the Dogs to take it, but they just kept letting Manly back into the game. They were up 10 points 2 separate times in the game, and Manly wouldn't go away.
Yeah, Manly is strong, and again, it's Daly Cherry Evans is your halfback. He's got the experience you need. Turbo back. I was shocked. Turbo was a lot more effective than I thought he would be. There was news coming out that he's been getting one shoulder injected all year, and then he busted that other shoulder like
Yeah.
1 week out from finals. So like, look, Turbo, like wet paper bag with injuries like in his career, the poor
Yeah.
guy. But he played well. Kohler was so impressive. And then
Oh,
you
that
can
try.
argue that, yeah, and try was insane. And you could argue that maybe this Addo-Carr situation going outside of the footy maybe impacted them a bit. Serraldo doesn't think that was the case. I don't think it was the case myself. Looking at them play on the field, it looked like that they were there to fight, they were there to play. I just think Andrew Johns tapped on something that was kind of gone maybe under the radar is that when you play that kind of brand of defensive footy with such a small forward pack for so long in the season and you grind
Mm,
out that reputation for winning close games and hard fought games based solely on your defense, it's going to tire you out. And I think the Bulldogs just played that brand of footy so long throughout the season. Smallest pack in the comp, arguably.
yeah,
I think
easily.
that they could have got it done, and I think they should have got it done against the Sea Eagles. But um, look, I'd say it's just a consequence. It's a very difficult year, and they shouldn't be upset with themselves going from like
Definitely.
one of the worst teams in the comp over the last 5 years to making finals. Is brilliant. I think next year they'll do even better.
Yeah, no doubt a successful season for them. I think they can hold their heads high, and the Belmore faithful won't go away, especially on the back of this season where they've developed so much, culture back into the club. I think it's been great to see Dogs fans come out of their caves this year. It's been 8 years of hard fought torment, and the bandwagon fans were no doubt probably on the Dogs more than any team that made the finals this year because they were just such this young, vibrant, exciting team to watch. They had pace on the outside and they had guys that like Viliami Kikau who can hit hardest with the best of them. So, they've got a lot to look forward to. If they make a couple more signings in the forward pack, they can be a real threat for some years to come. Okay, guys, so that ends the round there. A nice 4 out of 4 tips correct for me. Unfortunately, we didn't hit on all of the margins, and we are now going to update everyone on the tipping comp that we have been running all season. And here is the top 10. We have Callan still in first spot with a 3-point lead over the Usherman Steve, and North Sydney Bears Chris is still in third position by 1 point. Keep putting in your tips each and every week. We go all the way to the grand final this year, guys, and I do update everyone on our videos each and every week. And now, Blindside, mate, this is where we get into the big stuff. We got a brilliant game coming up on Friday night, and it is the Sharks taking on the Cowboys at Combank Stadium, of all places. Now, one thing I'd like to note is that the Sharks are 1 win out of their last 10 finals games. So coming into this one, I'm not really expecting too much from them, right? They'll just fall over and die for us once again. And I think the last time that the Cowboys played it, there was a field goal in it, and I think the time before that as well. So the last 2 times these two teams have met in final series, a field goal has been the difference.
I think it'll be 1-12. Definitely a close one. I'm obviously tipping the Sharks. I'm dirty as that it's not at Combank Stadium. I'm sorry that it is at Combank Stadium and not at Shark Park. The chairman of the Sharks
Mm.
actually spoke out about how upset he is. He's saying it's a political move, all of this crap.
Aw.
And to be
Oh,
honest, I'm
no.
like, why aren't we allowed to play at our home ground? Anyway, I don't think it's going to matter. I think typical Sharks fashion, they'll come with that fire in their belly as a result of it. I'm very hopeful that Ramian returns, and I think that he will. I think that'll
Mhm.
put our back line maybe at an advantage over you guys, just in terms of form, not in terms of skill. And I think our forward pack is more dominant. So I think that if we can play that style of footy, that brand of footy that Sharks have been playing all year when they had the streak, where it's okay, we're going to come in with a hard forward pack. We're going to play you up the middle. We're going to drag you in. We're going to score on the edges. And then once your forwards start to get tired, we're going to replace it with more forwards, the four forward bench. We probably won't play with a four forward bench because Atco will be on there in some fashion. But three forwards, I just think that we're too big. And it all depends. Can we play for 80? If we play for 80, we win. If we don't play for 80, Cowboys win. That's my gist of it.
Definitely. I was going to highlight that myself. I think the biggest strength for the Sharks this week, and was last week as well, over a Storm forward pack that I also considered smaller than them, was their forward pack and the middle, especially. I would say that, though, the Sharks, they're really interesting front row rotation for me. There seem to be a lot of above average front rowers with no genuine superstar, but all of them have the capability of having a big, 100-meter, 150-meter game on their day. But it's about whether they step up in the big games. And consequently, over the last 10 games, the Sharks really haven't stepped up in the finals. It's almost as if they've got stage fright at this point. I feel like for the Cowboys, and I wanted to highlight this as well, coming into Sydney, you would say it's probably not a place that we enjoy going, that we haven't had great success in the past. But over our last 7 finals games in Sydney, we've won 5. And it doesn't matter whether this game is at Shark Park or not, because we've won the only game there between the two teams in final series anyway. So whether you want to whine about that or not, up to you. You can talk to Sharks prayers about that one. But I feel like for the Cowboys, the way that we win this game is we have to slow the ruck down. Your guys play the ball speed of late has been so fast. We need to be able to find a way to hang on in tackles and restrict offloads. And unfortunately, it's not something that the Cowboys are great at doing. I'm kind of hoping for an Ashley Klein refereeing situation to come in here. That'd be great. I know he's your biggest
Klein.
fan.
Sorry, Klein. If Klein
But
sees this
I will
video,
be.
if Klein sees this video, mate, I think you're probably a great bloke. Absolute great bloke. I have just not had good experiences as a Sharks fan with you reffing our games. That's all. But look, how much? How much does it cost for you to give us a little bit of an edge up on this one, Klein?
Yeah, true. I mean, it tends to favour one team or the other. Really, it's really hit and miss with him at times. Sometimes don't know if he's the best referee in our game. Maybe a conversation for another day that we can have on a different show. But I feel like if the Cowboys are to win this game, we have to stay in the fight. As I said, slow down the ruck, restrict the offloads, and our middle has to stand up for possibly the first time in this final series. Although, what I will tell you is that most people on TBC Live this week are backing the Cowboys, so you will get 1.8 points for tipping the Cowboys this week, as opposed to 2.3 points for taking on the Sharks. So you might want to shift over to the Sharks as they look to be the juicy upset on TBC Live. But I will be going for the Cowboys 1-12, and I do also think that there will be a field goal in this game somewhere. Whether it is a
Ooh.
game-winning field goal, I don't know whether I'm looking at Val Holmes to do that, because Drinkwater's kicked one this year, 2-point field goal, and then Chad Townsend actually kicked the most field goals this year out of any player, and he won't be playing this game. Is Jake Clifford the man to step up for you? What's he looked like for you in the last couple of weeks?
He is hot and cold. I think Jake Clifford has definitely come back into the side better than he's been in the side previous. I think that goes without saying. I think Dearden, not in terms of field goal, but I think Dearden is going to have a lot to say about whether the attack of the Cowboys is good. You touched on needing to slow down the Sharks' ruck. Now, not that anyone's going to listen to this game that's a coach and then change their whole strategy for the game on the weekend. But I think the way to beat Cronulla Sharks is to kick early and deep into corners because it's their back five that
Wow.
initiates the deep run back. So if you look at the back five for Cronulla, their run meters are insane compared to other players in the competition. Their kick return, we've got Katoa, Iro, Mulatalo, Will Kennedy. Will Kennedy has been super impressive from the back this year. And you've got these guys running up the middle. Most of our sets, I don't have an actual figure, but we're making 40-meter gains out of our own end, and it's mostly due to our back five. And then you'll find that if we win that territory battle over the course of say 5-10 minutes, like at different points of the game in 5-10 minute periods, start to find that our forwards start to make their runs back from our 40-meter line into the half, and then that's where we get those runs on, and it's like boom, down, quick play the ball, up, hit Nickera, cut back into the ruck. Hazleton scores under the post. Like it's just that typical play. And I think the way to beat Cronulla is to kick early, kick deep, big kick chase, and just take the wind out of the sails of those outside backs. Um, if Cowboys manage to do, I think if the Cowboys are to win, that's what they're going to do. That's what they have to do. But I am biased as a Sharks fan, so they could probably do it in lots of ways.
I think Clifford, if you're going to pick one bloke to kick really deep, really long, Clifford's got a boot on him, possibly in the realms of Matty Burton there. Matty Burton probably has the biggest boot in the game, I would say. Clifford not too far behind, got a pretty big boot on him. But yeah, I really do. I really do think we have to slow down all of your team, not just the ruck. To tell you the truth, I am worried about your halves play. I think that is an area that we can exploit. There is a little bit of confusion there. Is it Hines' team? Is it Trindle's team? They managed to connect for a nice try for Nickera on the weekend, and no doubt I'm really loving the second row matchup that we have this week. We have Wilton going against Nanai, and then if Nanai's fit, actually didn't finish the game last week, and then Lukey going against Nickera, and you probably say that Lukey has been in some really good form over the last month or so, possibly one of the form second rowers of the competition. But Nickera is Nickera. I'm not going to say that Lukey is better than Nickera. So I'm going to be loving that matchup, and the old age matchup as well of Mulatalo against Felt. That to
That's
me
going to be
is
fun.
a nice juicy matchup as well. I feel like those two just hate each other.
Oh, they've got that same mentality, don't they? Just get in the face and man, I like Felt when the Sharks aren't playing him, and Mulatalo, I love the brand of footy he's playing. That's probably the matchup I'm most excited for is two wingers jumping up in the ball together, getting in each other's face. But I think you're right. I think that the Sharks' problem is their halves at the moment, and it's not so much that Nico's out of form or he needs to be dropped for Atco to come in. I think we touched on this off the air, but it's that Trindle or Hines needs to be in control. And I think that Hines at 6 as a ball runner, similar to Matt Burton, is better than where he's playing now at 7. Trindle's red zone attack taking the ball to the line and his pass selection is actually incredible. If you watch him in slow mo, he doesn't look at his players. He looks at the defensive line and trusts that the players are going to run the line, and he will pass to the player that has the best opportunity at the line. If do yourself a favor when we win 30 plus this week, and you'll probably see that Trindle's in a lot of those tries, and you'll see what I'm talking about. But nah, in all seriousness, I think this one could definitely go either way. And I wish I was watching it with you, Burks, because it'd be intense for both of us.
Yeah, no, I will actually be at the game at Combank Stadium on
Ooh.
Friday night. Will not miss an opportunity to go down to Parramatta, not too far away from me, that game. But I will be taking the Cowboys 1-12, and Blindside is on the Sharks 1-12 in this one, guys. So let us know who is going to get the upper hand in that matchup down in the comments section below. We'll also put a post up on Instagram, and we can share that with everyone. And we will move on to our next game, or our last game, as if you want to call it, of the weekend, where we have a bit of an interesting matchup. I think if some injuries hadn't have gone the way of the Roosters, this matchup would be possibly one-way traffic, but injuries have definitely made this much more of a 50-50 game. We have the Roosters taking on the Manly Sea Eagles. Now, the Sea Eagles and Roosters aren't having a great time of it of late in finals games. Manly have won 3 out of their last 10, which is not great. And then the Roosters have only won 2 out of their last 8 since winning the 2019 grand final. So for me, one of these teams is going to break a duck somewhere. The Sea Eagles got one up last week, and the Roosters coming in off the back of a pretty disappointing loss where they started extremely poorly. Do you think that if the Sea Eagles get the same leg up that Penrith got last week, that they will just run away with this?
Absolutely. I'm tipping Seagulls 13 plus. Now I know that's a big call out.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm tipping it
That is
13
huge,
plus.
actually.
No Walker, no Smith. They you got Kiri in the halves is great, but they don't have that. They don't have the same attacking flair without Walker. You don't have Smith who offers that little bit more in the ruck. They haven't really fired the outside backs since Manu's returned from injury. He hasn't really hit the form that he was in before leaving. Like Swali is on his way out of the club. Yeah, he will want to do something massive for the club before he leaves. No Radley. Well, and even if Radley, they're trying to get Radley back. He's delayed his surgery with a scapular fracture, which is look, I don't put it past him. The dude's crazy, but that he's not playing. They've got a lot of their reserves or their bench playing in starting positions, which is going to impact them, I think, deeper into the game. So if they don't start well, I don't see them coming on top of the Sea Eagles. Um, yeah, I think Roosters are out in straight sets, and I think they're out in a big way. That's my prediction.
Wow, that's a tough one. I feel like you maybe not giving the Roosters a little bit of credit here. Yes, they had a difficult week last week. I think they injuries are definitely tough to come by, but they've still got James Tedesco, who in my mind was one of the best fullbacks this year. Had a great bounce back year compared to all of the criticism that was said about him last year. Actually finished second this year in try assists for fullbacks as well, second to Scott Drinkwater. Um, and I just feel like Manly's biggest attacking weapon right now is hurt. Tom Trebojevic is looking extremely sluggish in parts of the game last week. I think we were talking off the air as well about how he's been getting needles and, it's different shoulders this time. He looked like he had a leg problem last week. And basically what I'm trying to get at is Manly's record without Turbo is terrible, but Manly's record with an injured Turbo is basically like playing with 12 men. At least when Turbo's out, you've definitely got someone in there playing fullback, whether it be Kola or Lehigh Opawati. They've subbed in at different times this year, and both times they've been beaten quite heavily. But with Turbo, yes, he had an injection in the game last week at a very critical moment, but I just feel like Manly can't give the sort of start as well. Both these teams started poorly. They can't give the sort of start to the Roosters because the Roosters are still a potent attacking team. They've got Kiri there, who's won premierships before as well. A lot of experience in this Roosters side. They get JWH back this week. Collins is also going to be starting in the front row there. That's a very well-known starting front row pair. This Manly forward pack that has been playing well over the last couple of weeks or last month or so really needs to continue to step up. Lodge, Paseka, they need to match it with Collins, JWH, Lenu, May, and I even think Nafahu White has been pretty good this year as well. You're right about Butcher. I think Butcher may struggle playing long minutes. Tupanua, what's his form like? But on the left side, you've got the best second rower in the comp in Angus Crichton. So I'm giving the Roosters a massive shot in this game, especially if they can start hot. And I don't think that they come out with the same energy that they had last week. Yes, they might be a bit disheartened due to injuries, but they could definitely come out flying here for Manly against Manly and really surprise them and get the better of them.
Yeah, I think you touch on key points there, and it's Crichton is insane. If he can get going, he's going to be near impossible to stop if he gets a good run on. My thing with the Roosters is the spine. So if the Roosters are to have a chance, the Desco needs to be heavily involved. With he needs to
Yep.
be in attack, both sides of the field. Needs to have a big game. I think if Roosters win, it's because Teddy's gone off and had a massive one. Whereas if you look at Sea Eagles, you've got Cherry Evans, Luke Brooks on both sides of the field. Turbo is injured or playing hampered, let's say, which definitely takes out their strike weapon. But you've got their whole back line is insane, not compared to the Roosters in terms of they're better, but it's not impacted at all through injury outside of Turbo. That's probably
Mhm.
where I'm concerned for the Roosters.
Saab,
And
I'd probably
without
say Saab. That's about it. Yeah.
Saab, yeah, yeah,
Saab
yeah.
being out. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. And then you've got Hopewadi, and then what they'll probably Team List aren't out yet, but
Tommy Talau.
Talau, yeah,
Yeah.
it'll be Talau. So look, it's gonna be I think you present a good point there. It's not even though Roosters have injuries, it doesn't mean they're going to be hopeless. But I think
Yep.
they will come with fire in the belly. We've seen they're not the sort of team to get beaten in the way that they got beaten and then come back into a string of poor form. They're going to come with everything. If they lose, they're gone. But I think you touched on it as well there. This game's going to be won in the forwards. I think it's who's going to have the
Yep.
dominant forward pack, and the dominant forward pack is going to be where the backs play off. Which, oh, look, I'm not going to backtrack my 13 plus prediction. I
It's
don't
like,
know
I was like,
why
I
I'm
turned him
feeling
here.
it. Nah, I'm trying my best to put myself in the shoes of the Roosters, but I don't know. Their form's dipped ever since Walker left. With the injury, I think Watson had his best role playing at lock. And now that he's moved into hooker, I think he's way better than Smith this year at hooker. But I think it
Mm.
means they got Terrell May on the bench, who we know can play 80 minutes. He can play 80 minutes up front. He's got a big motor. He's going to do a lot to help. Um, yeah, look, the more I talk about it, all I can think is whose forward pack's going to be the most dominant. That's literally it. I think whoever's forward pack's most dominant is going to win the game.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I will be backing the Roosters in there because I do believe that their forward pack has enough punch in it to go for that 80 minutes, especially a guy like Lenu, the tornado that Spencer can be at times. He probably didn't get as many minutes as he would have liked last week. No doubt that will be weighing on his mind. He probably didn't put his best foot forward against his old team. So, he would have been sitting down in solitary confinement for the last week, banging his head against the wall, chomping at the bit, trying to get a glimpse of some maroon and white jerseys just so he can tear them to shreds. I will be taking the Roosters 1-12. I do believe it will be close. You're still sticking with your Manly 13 plus
Yeah, I'm
as
going
well.
to, I don't know what it is. I'm going to cop flack for it. I bet you 100% we're going to see comments of what's this bloke on about. But look, if you say that, jump in the comments after the game. If it pulls off, and just say sorry. That's all. But
Yeah,
look, it's a big
that's good. Yeah.
prediction. Yeah, I know it's not
Yeah.
a
No,
likely thing to
I
go
admire
off,
the boldness. Yeah,
but yeah,
I do
I don't
admire
know
the
what it is.
boldness.
I just feel it. I feel like there's something big's going to come from the Seagulls. But look, I could be wrong. I've been wrong all year. I'm just excited at the fact that we're head to head in Cowboys Sharks, and now we're head to head in Manly Roosters. Just expect a lot of flack in the chat this weekend.
In the chat as well. Absolutely. All right, guys, that is it. We have our tips there. Thank you so much, Jye, for coming on this week, mate. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you've got going on at the moment and what you may have coming up next year as well?
Yeah, blindside. All NRL fantasy analysis is our main focus. Staying relevant in the off season is important to us too. I played for 14 years. Next year will be 15 years fantasy. I don't turn off. It's not like I just play for the fantasy season and then turn off in the off season. I'm addicted. So NRL news, daily news updates. You'll see it all over our pages, all over our socials. Everything relevant. Off season, we're going to be focusing on trying to build a little rule book, like give people an idea of how we play the game, how we approach the game. We're actually doing our
Mm.
trailer for our podcast that coming in 2025, which is I'm pretty excited for. We'll have more info coming out that on our socials and stuff as well. But yeah, staying relevant, everything fantasy related in the off season that I can find will be on our page. So yeah.
Awesome stuff. Please go follow him. The links are down in the description, guys. And if you haven't, please like and subscribe to the channel. And we'll catch you next week.